Let's look at the significance of the ANC's annual January 8 statement event with the party's alliance partners. And I'm joined by Mike Shingange, Congress of South Africa Trade Unions First Deputy Secretary, and Dr Alex Mashilo, South African Communist Party Chairperson. Gentlemen, a very good afternoon. Appreciate your time this afternoon. Thanks for joining us. So I'll start with you, Mr Shingange. Now, let's talk about your relationship with the ANC. You represent 2.3 million people, 2.3 million workers. The governing party, government rather, has gone and offered a unilateral 3.5% wage increase, contrary to what you're looking for. But you are alliance partners. How does this reflect on your relationship as an alliance partner?
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, Yuko, and your viewers. I would have thought that in terms of our brief, this will be an opportune moment to congratulate the ANC on the milestone of 111 years as they march to a celebration that a milestone including what is going to come out of the conclusion of the conference that is taking place, as well as the January statement that is coming. Coming to the relationship, of course, it's a dynamic relationship. It's a robust one. It's a revolutionary relationship. We keep agreeing on certain perspectives, and we keep disagreeing on certain perspectives. But that's why we are three independent alliance components. In other words, it means that structurally we represent different constituencies, and that's why sometimes we will not see the same way on the perspective. But we continue to engage, and we continue to try and find a common ground.
Dr. Mashilo, let's talk about January 8 statement. What are your expectations as SACP?
Our expectations from the January 8 statement include the ANC making use of the opportunity to report back on the outcomes of its conference from a policy perspective. That report back has to give an indication of what will go into the State of the Nation address in February, as well as the budget. It has to, therefore, articulate or outline the policy outcomes of this conference. That is so key for us, and there are several areas we are interested in. The first one are policies that will help us overcome the dilapidating, load-shedding electricity crisis. Secondly, we have approximately 12 million active and discouraged work seekers. So those policy outcomes have to give confidence to the masses that they will go a long way in addressing not only unemployment, but also poverty and inequality.
Now, South Africa arguably remains one of the most unequal states in the world. Now, if the ANC is unable to deal with those issues over the next 12 months, what happens? Where does this leave your relationship with the ANC or your membership as part of the tripartite?
The ANC has to do its best. So far, the record that speaks for itself is not impressive at all. Since the adoption of the neoliberal policy called growth, employment and redistribution, gear in short, in 1996, we have had an unemployment rate which is above 20%. This unemployment rate has been fluctuating and worsening above 20% since 1996. So the ANC policy outcomes have to openly acknowledge that there has been a long-term policy failure, not only to address the problem of unemployment, but also poverty and inequality. And in acknowledging openly that policy failure, it has to introduce the ANC in the outcomes of its conference a policy shift. It is a policy shift that will give confidence. If the ANC comes from the conference with one of the same policy measures, there is no way it will give confidence to the people, and it will likely continue experiencing a decline in its electoral support until it is out of power. The ANC will have to prevent that. And from the point of view of the alliance, we will not be impressed by ANC National Policy Conference outcomes and a January 8th statement that maintains the status quo, the policy status quo that failed.
Now, Mr. Shingange, Dr. Mashilo talks about not being impressed with the outcome of a policy conference that does not deal with the issues, at least the next few months. Now, you represent workers who, in the last year, have heckled President Cyril Ramaphosa at various mass gatherings. So your constituents is very displeased with the current situation. What are your expectations from January 8th, and what pressure can you put on the ANC to perform as per the expectations of the constituents that you represent?
Not just the constituency that we represent only, but the majority of the working class in the society as a whole is restless. What you call as workers having heckled the president, regrettable as it is reflective of the society everywhere else when they protest against the dilapidating state of their living. Our view is that the report that we have just cited of the World Bank of South Africa being the most unequal society in the world is not accidental. It is a 1948 program designed by Henry Food that was designed to isolate and exclude black majority from participating in the economy. That's why South Africa's colonialism was called the colonialism of a special type. That which report is indicative is that actually nothing has changed. That structural design of the South African economy and the special development still persists today. This conference and this January 8th statement and the outcome of this conference have to acknowledge that it cannot continue to pursue the same modus operandi of the economic transformation if it has to continue to at least win the trust of our people. Our expectation is that ANC need to acknowledge that it needs to win back the trust that has got a huge deficiency in the past few years. It has to acknowledge that it has to make sure that it continues to fight the corruption that is there, that is making people to be demoralized. We need to understand that the current state of South African society, where we are the most unequal people, not because we are the most poor society, but it's because of how we distribute the wealth. It took people who were in charge of the state to design such kind of a program. The ANC needs to acknowledge that it is in power now, it is in control of the state, it must use the state power to undo that which was done by those who were in charge of the state back in 1948.
Yeah, but we've had 28 years to do that. Is that not sufficient time? If not sufficient time, has there been any progress in redressing some of those issues? Because it seems like we are going round in circles, and you are allowing, I'd imagine, the ANC a lot more rope than certainly your constituents would like.
That's why all of us as the alliance partners, we are making a call that it is now or never. That's why we are speaking in unison, that actually it has to be now, that if it wants to arrest the decline of support that it's having, that if it has to close the trust deficit that is there, it has to be now or never. That's why all of us, even this morning, we were saying, we have made progress in certain areas. Not like there were no progress that we made in certain areas. But
Mr. Shingange, allow me to come in there. What does now or never actually look like? How does that translate into actual action?
No, it means the society is going to continue to be reckless. It's going to continue to distrust the ANC, something which we can't afford. The ANC itself can't afford. They have to make sure that people have confidence once again on the ANC by action. They have to know that the time for rhetoric is over. The time to act is now. That's all what we are saying. That's why we are even, as Cosatu, we are calling for an alliance summit as urgently as now. Now that all the three components of the alliance are coming from their various conferences and congress to consolidate, firstly, the gains, but also to consolidate the program of action that we are going to jointly continue to make sure that we continue the transformation agenda of this country. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to be in a relationship that is not aware of the fact that the ground is shifting, of the fact that the masses are actually moving away because of discontent.
Dr. Mashilo, I will end this with you. Earlier I spoke to my colleague Gervin Whittles, who talked about engagement at the 55th ANC conference by the ANC between yourselves and the ANC only happened at the very back end of the first part of that conference. What does that speak about the relationship that you have with the ANC? And there have also been calls that at the next election, the SACP should stand on its own and not part of the tripartite.
Yes, the relationship between the alliance partners tends to be affected by the internal dynamics taking place in each alliance partner. Insofar as the recent period is concerned, the ANC has been the epicenter of the internal dynamics that affected the alliance relations. In response to the alliance relations as we have had them post-1994, as Shingange has said, we have agreed with Cosatu and we are still pushing for the reconfiguration of the alliance to move with the times. It cannot be that while we are in an alliance, ultimately it is the decisions of a single alliance partner that informs government policy direction and legislative development in Parliament. And Cosatu responds to that through protest action. The SACP responds to that through supporting Cosatu's protest action and mass mobilization, as well as engagement in the alliance. Now, by reconfiguring the alliance, you will improve alliance relations. The issue relating to whether the SACP has to contest elections directly is an issue that our 15th National Conference, held in mid-July 2022, has resolved. The resolution is simple. We will contest for elections within the framework of a reconfigured alliance. However, if the alliance continues to be not reconfigured, there is no way we will continue to contest elections within a framework of an alliance that is not reconfigured. We will convene a session and make a decision to contest elections outside of the alliance as it stands without being reconfigured. In fact, our resolution states, if I were to quote this part, we resolve to contest elections with or without a reconfigured alliance if the alliance is not reconfigured.
Gentlemen, appreciate your time this afternoon. Mike Shingange, Cosatu's first Deputy President, and Dr. Alex Mashilo, South African Communist Party spokesperson.